You don't need a large backyard or expensive tools to grow something beautiful. Just 4 meters, a handful of bottles, a bit of care. In this video, we're stepping into a tiny garden with a big heart, where packwood grows in bottles, compost is made in buckets, and every corner is filled with purpose. Welcome to Crafted Nest, where we believe creativity can grow in the smallest of spaces. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, not just for inspiration, but for ideas you can actually do at home. You'll find timestamps below to skip to what you need, and feel free to drop your thought in the comments. We'd love to hear what you're growing today. There's a quiet wonder in standing before a wall you once saw as blank. Once dull, once overlooked. Now it holds life, one bottle at a time. The hydroponic bottle wall is a gentle rebellion against the idea that gardens need land. With just a handful of recycled bottles, a wooden backboard, and a few drops of creativity, a vertical oasis rises on a fence, a patio wall, or the narrow strip beside your door. You cut, fill, nesting the seedlings, and let the roots sip their share of nutrient water. No soil, no mess, just green. The packwood responds first, their rosettes puffing out confidently after a week. Then come the lettuce sprouts, gently curling like they know they're destined for your next homemade sandwich. Each layer grows at its own pace, reminding you that progress is personal. There's joy in misting the leaves at sunrise, in peeking beneath the bottle lip to check on root tendrils stretching down. A wall once idle now feeds you, and not just with food, but with rhythm. A few minutes of tending each day, a quiet gnaw to growth, reuse, and simple beauty. You don't need a field, just a bottle, a little care, and a wall that's ready for more than just paint. Not all things need space to thrive. In the hush of a 4x4 meter garden, there's a quiet stack of fabric bags, soft, flexible, and unexpectedly powerful. Yuccaina lives here, layered and lush, her leaves fanning out like quiet applause to the morning light. These grow bags breathe. They welcome air into the soil. They cradle roots like a hammock. When the sun warms the fabric, moisture rises gently, keeping the roots balanced. There's no plastic here, no rigid boxes. Just pockets of earth made from stitch fiber, hanging against a fence or arranged like stair steps beside a greenhouse wall. Yuccaina is generous. Her leaves are smooth and wide, asking little and giving plenty. She grows quickly and looks beautiful doing it. The first few days, she may seem shy, but give her a week and she'll rise with emerald certainty. Water from the top and watch it trickle down. A soft, shared system, each bag feeding the next. It's a small thing, a handful of soil, a scattering of seeds, a cloth sack, but from it grows a ritual, a rhythm. Mornings with a watering can, evenings with harvest scissors. A garden not shaped by space, but by care. And that, after all, is the real root of everything that grows. Beneath every flourishing garden lies a secret, the layers that came before. In the heart of this 4x4 meter sanctuary, a wooden frame humbly claims a patch of ground, but within, it holds a quiet miracle of transformation. Compost, soil, time, and trust. Building a raised bed begins with gathering what others might throw away. Dry leaves, pruned stems, kitchen scraps turn soft. These are not waste. They are the foundation. Layer by layer, carbon meets nitrogen. Earthworms arrive, and the scent of life replaces rot. You top it with dark soil, and press and seed with your thumb. Within days, green whispers rise. Lettuce, chard, kangkung. You reach down, and the earth is warm. Moisture lingers beneath the straw cover, and the roots spread with ease. Raised beds drain well, breathe better, and ask little more than your footsteps nearby each day. Children walk past and pluck a leaf. A neighbor pauses to ask if you use chemical fertilizer. You shake your head and smile. Only compost, made in your own corner bin, stirred with a stick and patience. The raised bed becomes more than a box. It's a story in layers. Scraps the soil, seeds the salad. It teaches that even in small places, when things are layered with care, growth will always find its way to the surface. Here, in a corner untouched by noise or current, plants grow in silence, fed by gravity, light, and the wisdom of simple design. The no-electricity hydroponic garden is a lesson in restraint, a whisper of what can thrive when we step back and let nature lead. The recycled bottles, clear, curve, and humble, become miniature ecosystems. Each one cradles a bit of nutrient-rich water and a seedling with dreams of light. No pump hums, no cords tangle. The plants sip what they need through cloth wicks or gently suspended roots. The air above is quiet. The water below is still. Packgoy grows best here. Its tidy clusters bloom confidently in bottles hung on fences or resting in rows. Every few days, you check the water level. That's all. No tech, just touch. You lift a leaf, smile at the tiny droplets forming on its surface, and feel a kind of peace that only comes from tending something real. This is gardening for those with little space, little budget, or little interest in gadgets. But it's not lacking. It's rich in flavor, in rhythm, in reward. A garden that needs no electricity asks instead for your observation, your hand refilling, your joy when at the end of the month there's a salad waiting that costs you nothing but care. And that, perhaps, is the most powerful current of all. Step outside the kitchen door, and the garden greets you like an old friend, vibrant, aromatic, and ready to be part of the meal. In a compact 4x4 meter space, where steps are few but intentions are full, a patchwork of containers tells a tale of flavor and function. Tomatoes grow from a wooden crate. Basil leans from a pot painted by hand. A chili plant blushes red against a rusted bucket. The kitchen garden isn't fancy, but it is alive, and it knows exactly what your recipes need. You reach down for lemongrass, still damp with morning dew. Green onions sway as if to say, "Pick me next." There's no pressure here, only possibility. You don't need to grow everything, just enough to stir into your daily life. A leaf of mint for tea, a sprig of coriander for soup. The plants respond to attention, not perfection. Children learn here. They tug at the leaves and guess their names. You learn, too, when to water, how to companion plant, which vegetable prefers the shadier side of the fence. And each morning, the kitchen and the garden trade secrets over steam and sunlight. With every meal grown partly from your soil, the world feels more generous. This garden doesn't just feed the body. It nourishes your sense of place, your rhythm, your joy. There's something theatrical about the way gourds hang, like lanterns in a quiet celebration of time, light, and patience. In this small garden, they're the crown jewels, suspended midair beneath a trellis that hums with summer energy. The frame is nothing fancy. Bamboo poles bound with twine, bent metal rods repurposed from another life. Yet together, they carry weight with ease, both the physical weight of ripening fruit and the emotional weight of waiting. Bottle gourd and honey squash are generous plants. Their vines stretch far, eager for space to climb, dance, and drape. You guide the tendrils gently, wrapping them where they'll catch the sun best. Morning light filters through the leaves like stained glass. Bees hover. The air is soft and warm. Days pass, and the gourds grow with quiet determination, from delicate green bulbs to full-bodied forms ready for harvest. This trellis does more than support a plant. It reshapes a small garden into a space of height and motion. Children walk underneath, looking up in awe. Visitors pause, unsure whether they stepped into a farm or a dream. And when the fruit is finally cut, with care, with pride, you carry it into your kitchen knowing it came from overhead, from sky-touched vines, from a patch of earth where a wall once stood. The garden doesn't need grandeur to feel abundant. Here, in a square no larger than a small room, rows stretch like quiet poetry, each line whispering a different taste, texture, and scent. This is a harvest zone, and every patch has its own story. The beds are simple, some edged with wood, others lined with stones. You crouch at one row, gently tugging a spinach leaf. Beside it, radishes peek out, red bulbs nestled just beneath the surface. A few feet away, flowering herbs sway, their petals brushing the air as if marking time. Each row is intentional, each crop a promise. The spacing isn't perfect, but the rhythm is there. Tall beside short, climbers near their trellis, and leafy greens in semi-shade. It's a quiet choreography, set to the music of bees, wind, and the rustle of your own footsteps. Harvesting becomes ritual. Walk, observe, pluck. You don't take all at once. Just enough, always enough. There's joy in the variety. From one bed to the next, your hands gather color. purple stems, green leaves, golden squash. The kitchen basket fills with intention. And when you look back at the garden, it's not just food you see. It's effort transformed into sustenance, a pattern of care and patience drawn directly onto the earth. In this patchwork of edible rows, you begin to understand. Even small gardens hold enough to feed a table, a home, a heart. The rosella rises with elegance, tall, burgundy-stemmed, her crown filled with ruby calyces that catch the sun like stained glass. In this gentle corner of the garden, she is both harvest and ornament, growing from a bed framed not just with wood, but with bursts of color and bloom. Around her, the earth glows. Marigolds guard the borders with cheerful fire. Zinnias add weightless joy, and basil's peppery green scents the wind. These flowering edges aren't merely decorative. They are guardians, attracting bees and distracting pests, forming a fragrant circle of protection. You lean into harvest, thumb pressing against a rosella fruit until it clicks free. The red is deep, almost velvety. As you gather more, the sun breaks through a cloud, illuminating the whole patch like a scene from a storybook. And it is a story, one of cycles, of seeds once planted without promise, now offering their bounty. Children are drawn here first, perhaps to the color or the feeling that something celebratory lives within the frame. Visitors ask what you use rosella for, and you answer softly. Tea, jam, syrup, joy. You brew a cup later that day. Its crimson hue steeped in more than water. It holds time, soil, attention. A seasonal harvest framed in flowers. A reminder that beauty and use can bloom together. And that in a small square of soil, one can grow both sustenance and delight. The past doesn't always stay buried. Sometimes, it becomes the roots for something new. In a quiet backyard, where koi fish once swam in still waters, a garden now rises, airy, green, and full of promise. The old fish pond is still there, only now. It breeds vegetables instead of ripples. The frame is handmade. Planks once left idle in the shed, nails pulled from forgotten crates. Transparent poly roofing stretched gently overhead. It may not be perfect, but it holds warmth. It holds life. And where water once echoed against concrete, now soil cradles roots, and air hums with photosynthesis. Inside, the air is soft. Tomatoes climb in the corners. A row of spinach nods toward the sun. The pond's sturdy foundation becomes an anchor, holding moisture, insulating warmth. Its shape guides the flow of your steps. You learn where the shadows fall, where the wind sighs, where the bees pause. There's something poetic in transforming a space built for fish into one that now feeds humans. The water still serves, but differently. In mist, in droplets, in reused jugs filled with compost tea. Overhead, hanging baskets sway. On the ground, pole bags crowd with leafy growth. This greenhouse is not bought. It's made from what was, made for what's next. And in every harvest, in every seedling that touches old cement, you see the quiet miracle of reuse and the hope that no space, no past is ever truly wasted. Not all things must be replaced. Some, like tired soil, ask only be remembered, stirred gently, fed slowly, and returned to purpose. In this small garden, where every centimeter counts, even the ground beneath your feet is seen as something sacred, something that deserves a second season. You begin with what you have, a bag of used planting mix, dry and light, scattered with root remnants. You lift a handful, and it falls like dust. But here comes the charcoal, a quiet purifier, ground fine like black snow. Then compost, warm and breathing with unseen life. A touch of humic acid, if you have it, to balance the mix like seasoning to a soup. You don't need machines, just your hands, a shallow tub, and a little patience. The mixing is therapeutic, not just for the soil, but for the soul. As you blend, the smell changes, the texture shifts, a new richness returns. This revived soil is more than medium, it's memory. It remembers the pakoi from last season, the roots of yesterday's rosella, the splash of water and sun. And now, it will carry new life forward, into po bags, into planters, into trays that will soon sprout with promise. You realize then, gently, that restoration is its own form of planting. And in caring for what once felt spent, you give yourself and your garden another beginning. Beneath the surface of what we discard lives a potential for everything to begin again. In the quietest part of the garden, tucked behind a row of celery and concombre, stand a few plastic buckets, ordinary, mismatched, unremarkable. But what they hold is anything but. Inside, yesterday's trimmings, coffee ground, papaya peels, and fading leaves. You lift the lid and a wave of warmth escapes, scented with earth and time. The compost breathes. It simmers. It transforms. No smell of rot, only the rich promise of soil in the making. You didn't buy a composter. You made one, drilled holes into buckets once used for paint or water, layered your scraps with dry browns, covered them from rain, and you waited, not weeks, but rhythms, the rhythm of stirring, of adding, of checking moisture, of trusting. Over time, the scraps soften, worms find their way in. What was once waste becomes a thick, crumbly black, the kind of soil you wish all plants could grow in. And they do. You scoop it out and tuck it under a rosella stem, into the roots of your concombre bed, or as the base of a new po bag mix. This bucket isn't just a bin. It's a slow, circular act of care. And every time you drop a banana peel in, you're saying something quiet but bold. Nothing here is wasted. Everything, given time, becomes something new. In the stillness of early morning, a gardener pours amber liquid into a watering can, not bought from a store, not sealed in plastic, with a printed label, but crafted quietly, fermented over weeks from what most homes throw away. This is POC, Pupuck Organic Care, a name that may sound technical, but in the hands of a backyard grower, it's an act of simple, earthy grace. You gather it slowly. Onion peels, leftover rice water, banana skins, crushed rosella husks, and garden trimmings, all steeped in a closed container with patience and time. The mix doesn't look beautiful. It doesn't need to. Inside, microbes work their quiet magic, transforming scraps into food for roots. When the liquid darkens and the scent shifts from sharp to earthy sweet, it's ready. A capful to 1 liter of water. That's all your plants ask. You pour it at the base, watching the soil drink deeply. Days later, leaves perk, stems thicken, blossoms open just a little brighter. This isn't just about saving money. It's about closing the loop, about feeding the garden with what the kitchen discards. And in return, the garden feeds you with spinach, with squash, with solace. There's a kind of satisfaction here no commercial product can match. A quiet pride in knowing you made something real, from nothing but scraps and care. Sometimes, the best offenses are born in silence, in the soak of onion skins left overnight in an old jar, in the faint scent of earth and sulfur rising with dawn. This is not the work of chemicals or loud machines. It is the soft alchemy of patience and memory. In the early evening, you peel onions for dinner, and instead of discarding the papery skins, you set them aside. They soak in water, quiet and still. By morning, the jar holds something new, a light brew of natural strength, strained and poured into a sprayer. It becomes a gentle shield for the garden. You walk the rows of your greens. Packgoy, celery, concombre. Each leaf is checked, each stem observed. You spray not out of fear, but care. The mist settles like morning dew, harmless to you, uncomfortable to pests. There are no sirens of warning, no flashing signs. Just the soft sound of droplets landing and the garden breathing in gratitude. There's pride in knowing you don't need to poison what you hope to eat. Pride in knowing your harvest is untouched by the weight of harsh treatments. And it began simply with an onion. This spray is not a miracle. It needs consistency, gentle hands, a little faith. But it works. And more than that, it aligns with the soil, with the air, with the promise that every scrap can serve again and every bite can begin with trust. Step into the greenhouse, and a breath of time rises. Not the passing of hours, but the kind that lingers on the fingertips. The kind that flavors not only soup, but memory. Here, on a simple shelf framed in pine and patience, an orchestra of herbs grows silently, suspended above soil, rooted only in water and light. Mint leans gently from a repurposed mineral bottle. Coriander stretches its delicate arms toward the sun. Basil, bold and fragrant, claims the center. No soil stains the shelf. No electricity buzzes through it. Only jars, bottles, and the unseen work of roots reaching down into still water. Each bottle is a story, labeled in your own handwriting. A small sponge or bit of cloth cradles the stem, holding it upright like a newborn plant in a cradle of reuse. The nutrients, measured not by precision but by instinct, mix with water and sustain each herb and kind. The beauty of this shelf is not its size, but its service. It gives the kitchen daily handfuls of green. It gives the gardener a reason to pause. And it gives the greenhouse a scent that no plastic-wrapped herb from a store could ever offer. This system needs no fanfare. Just a few bottles, a bit of knowledge, and your hand brushing leaves each morning. A shelf becomes a garden. A garden becomes a ritual. And the ritual becomes a gift. One you get to taste, smell, and share. It starts with footsteps and dew. The garden greets you with cool air and birdsong. And waiting near the edge, just beside the greenhouse wall, is a harvest table. Humble, weathered, and patient. It isn't just a surface. It's a beginning. Each morning, you arrive with a small basket and leave with story. Packcoy still wet from mist. Celedri standing upright and proud. Rosella pods glowing red in the soft sun. The table receives them all. It holds the hand-picked moments of a quiet ritual, one that links garden to kitchen, soil to soul. This isn't a place of display. It's where things pass, from root to hand, from leaf to plate. You pause here to sort, to admire, to rinse. Sometimes a child joins you, learning names by touch. Sometimes it's just you, sharing a private moment with the morning light. On certain days, you leave a few herbs for the neighbor. On others, you set aside a special pot of Rosella to dry for tea. The table holds these intentions just as gently as it holds the food. And when you finally carry the harvest inside, there's a sense of completion. Lunch didn't begin at the stove. It began out here, in your garden, at this table, under a soft sky. A space not built for grandeur, but for connection, one handful at a time. Tucked into the quietest corner of the garden stands a narrow tower green, not tall in height, but grand in purpose. It doesn't draw attention at first glance, but come closer and you'll see stalks of celery rising from each layer like fountains of light, delicate and proud. This hydroponic tower wasn't purchased. It was pieced together from bottles once forgotten, tubes once discarded, hands never afraid to try. Each level holds water. Each celery base, once cut from the kitchen, now regrows its promise. The roots dangle in silence, fed by gravity and rhythm, asking for nothing more than your glance and care. In the beginning, you were unsure. Would it work in a space this small? But the garden answers in growth. Stalks thicken, leaves deepen. One bottle supports the next, and together they rise, not to dominate, but to quietly insist. Here, too, something beautiful can thrive. The celery doesn't rush, and in caring for it, neither do you. You lift a bottle, check the roots, add a splash of nutrient water, trim a few leaves. In these few minutes, something slows inside you. A pause, a reset, found in a vertical rhythm of green. And when the time comes to harvest, you snap a stalk, crisp, cool, fragrant, and smile. Because this wasn't just grown. It was made possible one container at a time. Some things in life teach you the beauty of immediacy. Packcoy is one of them. In just 30 days, it transforms from tiny seedling to a lush, full rosette. And here, in the modest embrace of old water bottles, it grows with speed, simplicity, and a kind of silent pride. You begin with bottles, the kind tossed away daily. A careful cut, a sponge or a wick, a bit of nutrient water. Then the seeds. It doesn't take long. Just a few days in, little shoots emerge like whispers. By the second week, the leaves start to open like umbrellas. By the third, they thicken and shine. Each bottle becomes a capsule of green, self-contained, light, and alive. You arrange them on a shelf beside the kitchen wall, or along the edge of a greenhouse path. No soil, no electricity. Just water, light, and a gardener's attention. It's the perfect garden for the hesitant, for those who say they can't, for those who think they need more space, more tools, more time. Packgoy doesn't ask for much. And in return, it gives. In leaves you stir into your noodles. In the joy of plucking dinner from a bottle. And when you harvest, there's always room to start again. Another seed, another bottle, another chance. This garden never waits. It grows quickly and kindly, reminding you that growth is always within reach. It began with a wish to grow upwards, to give flight to the garden rather than letting it sprawl. And so, out of scrap bamboo and salvage wood, the tiny pergola was born. Not grand, not towering, but enough to carry the weight of green dreams suspended in air. Beneath it, you stand in dappled light, filtered through leaves and repurposed plastic bottles that now serve as floating homes for herbs and vines. Each bottle is sliced with care, drilled for drainage, and hung with string or twine. Some cradle mint that reaches down like a lazy river. Others house shy marigolds or baby spinach. There's beauty in how they move, swaying slightly in the breeze, glinting under morning sun. Each bottle catches the light differently. Some have labels still half attached, a wink at the past life they once lived. Now, they serve a higher purpose, not just as vessels for growth, but as beacons of reuse, color, and imagination. The pergola gives structure to this small space. It defines a corner, offers shade, invites lingering. Beneath it, you sip tea, harvest a leaf, sit quietly and listen to the garden breathe. And you realize beauty doesn't always grow from the ground up. Sometimes it hangs in the air, light as breath, real as your own two hands. Even a garden needs a place to pause. And here, in the quiet crook between the rosella bed and the celery tower, rests a bench. Not store-bought, not ornate, but assembled with warmth and purpose. Its frame, discarded planks, perhaps from an old crate. Its seat, a thick fold of burlap, stitched from used sacks that once carried rice or coffee or grain. The texture is rough but comforting, like the garden itself. You run your hand over the fabric, feeling the faint memory of words once printed, now softened by rain and sun. It's not polished, it's real, and when you sit, the weight of the day lifts just enough to let you breathe. This isn't just a seat, it's a pause button, a morning coffee perch, a midday pruning break, a place where muddy gloves are removed, harvest baskets are placed, and children sit barefoot, crunching on raw kangkung leaves. You didn't plan for it at first, but the sacks were too strong to throw out, the wood too stubborn to burn. And so you built, not with a blueprint, but with instinct. And now, the garden feels fuller, more lived in, more yours. In this corner, stories settle. Between the stillness of compost and the bloom of squash, the bench becomes part of the rhythm, softening the edges of effort, making space for joy. The harvest doesn't end when the roots are pulled or the leaves are snipped. It continues in the soft rustle of drying herbs, in the curve of a woven basket, in the quiet pride of small things made useful again. Mounted on a garden wall, this micro-harvest station holds more than tools. It holds time. Baskets dangle from nails in neat rows, their handles worn smooth from daily gathering. Above them, wooden pegs clip sprigs of mint, stems of kangkung, rosella petals laid flat like small red suns waiting to be bottled into tea. This wall wasn't planned. It was born from necessity. A basket left on the ground, a clothespin forgotten on the line, all brought together and nailed to an old pallet. Now, it stands like a silent helper. You pick, you place, you hang, and the garden continues to give, even in stillness. Children run past and grab a tomato. A neighbor reaches for a basket to borrow. You pin a handful of basil to dry, then sit beneath the pergola, watching it twist gently in the wind. There's beauty in systems that make use of corners, beauty in rituals that elevate the everyday. And as sunlight leans across the wall in late afternoon, you smile, knowing this little patch of baskets has become your garden's final chapter. Before each ingredient meets the kitchen, the garden story doesn't end with a final harvest. It folds itself into something smaller, quieter, and full of latent power, a seed. In a sunlit corner, on a simple shelf, lies the future, held in carefully labeled paper envelopes and tiny glass jars. The work is meditative. With gentle fingers, you break open a dried rosella pod. releasing the dark seeds within. You shake the head of marigold, and a shower of black slivers falls onto a plate. Each seed is a memory of the plant it came from, its strength, its flavor, its resilience. You don't need special equipment, just a bowl, your hands, and a quiet moment. You write the name on an envelope. Kangkung, August 2025, not just as a label, but as an act of honor. You are saving not just a seed, but a lineage, a story passed from one season to the next. These are not just seeds, they are promises. The promise of next season's soup, the memory of the summer sun, the quiet assurance that life will continue. The garden has taught you how to feed yourself. Now, it is teaching you how to feed itself, how to begin again from its own generosity. And in this small act of saving, you hold the entire cycle of life in the palm of your hand.